Welcome to Inside the Game. I'm Randip Janda for Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. He is a former Hart Trophy winner and a current member of the Carolina Hurricanes, Taylor Hall. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to get started on what are you doing currently right now as you've wound up the first round series, right? Look, this is a rare scenario where you might have over a
Yeah.
week off in the first round. Like, what are you doing to fill the time?
Yeah, no, it's unique for sure. Watching a lot of hockey, played a little bit of golf yesterday, just knowing that we won't play until, probably at least Sunday, maybe Monday. So there's a few days here to, just collect your thoughts, get healthy. I'm not too banged up myself, but it's nice for some other guys to get some rest. And we've been practicing. It's unique in the fact we don't know who our opponent is. They seem like two very different teams, to be honest with you. So today's Wednesday. Watching the game tonight will be interesting just to see what happens. Maybe we know our opponent, maybe we don't. But we'll take the time off. We advance to the second round. No matter how you do it, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about that first round series that you had because it was intense. Hits everywhere. You guys play an intense brand of hockey to begin with. Were the Ottawa Senators and what they brought in terms of stylistically what you guys expected? Did that go to exactly as planned when, your coach and Rod Brindamore was mapping it out?
I think we knew it was going to be a hard series, tight series. It didn't seem like there was going to be any games that were blowouts. I think goals were going to be hard to come by, and that's kind of how it played out. With my hit on Sanderson, I think that kind of sparked some more physicality, especially in game four. But it's always so hard to eliminate a team. You're seeing the same thing with Pittsburgh and Philly right now. It's so hard to win that fourth game, and the Senators threw everything we had or they threw everything they had at us, and I have a lot of respect for them as a team. It didn't seem like a sweep when we were playing them, but it's nice to be off now.
Okay, I got to ask you about Game 4 because we covered that on our broadcast. It was crazy from a fan experience and a media perspective. The question I have for you though is, like the cameras were cutting back to Nick Deslauriers when everything was going on. Like, were you guys on the bench watching Nick as well? Because it felt like everybody wanted him. It felt like he wanted to be on the ice when a lot of that stuff was going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's great to have in your corner. He was nice to have, in the lineup for that game, just because the emotions, everything that was happening. But he's also a pro. Like he knows how to do this. He
Yeah.
knows, where the line is and what he can and can't do. He's not going to put our team in a bad spot. He's going to do everything just, to the line, but not go over it. And I think once the second period ended and everything kind of settled down, we thought we were the better team. And if we could just play 5-on-5 hockey, it would show, and we'd be fine in the end. But D'Lo is a great guy to have in our corner, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah, he's a heck of a player as well. I remember covering some games when he used to play for Anaheim, and had the multi-goal games, had some great games in Philly as well, and just a physical presence, but also got some skill as well. And everybody in the league has skill, right?
Yeah,
Quick, you mentioned the series and the way it played out. Your line was the best line in the series. The second line, if you want to call it that, it played like a first line. But you, Stankoven, Jackson Blake, what makes you guys click? It felt like in that series, you got every one of you was going.
yeah. We ended the regular season really well. Since the Olympic break, we've been really good, to be honest with you, and the last 8 to 10 games, the pucks were going in, and it's important to have that. Stank hit 20 goals. I got close. Um, you need to, it's one thing to have good games and some good ozone time and some really good shifts, cycling the puck, whatever, but it's important to see goals go in and get, some validity from those games. And I think we had that down the stretch. And we've played together for 50, almost 60 games now in a row, where you start to really know where guys are going to be, what their tendencies are, where they like to get the puck, how they like to take one timers. There's a million different things that you just start to learn about guys, and I think we're in a sweet spot right now. And yeah, we had a really good round one, and hopefully we can replicate that as the playoffs go on.
You mentioned the style that Carolina plays, and obviously, joining the team last year, you got a taste of that, 24-25. This year, you got 80 games in the regular season. You're playing great hockey in the playoffs. How big of a difference is the style from a player's perspective? Because we see the intensity, we see the speed at which, the team plays with, but going from a team like Chicago last year to making that switch to Carolina, like, how big of a difference is it for you as a player?
It's a big difference, but in a good way. Our system, the way we play, the details in which we play, they're pretty fine and they're pretty exact. But I think once you get comfortable in that system and that way of playing, you find your way of having an impact. Where you can play, where you can make plays, where you can't. And I thought that I was pretty dialed in after the season last year, but it still took me a couple months this year to really feel like I was ingrained in what we were doing and how I need to play and what's expected of me personally. So, in saying that, it's probably, 70, 80 games, before you see a guy really feel comfortable in the way we play. But once you get it, it's great. And you see how we wear on teams and how fun it is to play for us.
It seems like it's a physically demanding series, and of course, your coach's nickname, or sorry, style of play, and your coach's nickname is the Rod the Bod. So the coach is going to be ready to go. Is stamina, that off-season conditioning, is that a big part of trying to play the style? You got to be in the best shape in September and August. It's not like the old NHL, maybe like in the '90s, where you got to get into shape when you hit the camp. Like, is the coach expecting you to be ready to go when August hits, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like I've been in pretty good shape. There's an on ice test and a bike test that the guys were pretty stressed out about, this year at training camp, even though they've done it 6, 7, 8 years in a row. So I got the hint that it'd be wise to be ready for those tests. It's interesting, our training camp, there's not a lot of battle drills. There's not a lot of physicality, but there's a ton of skating. And with the way we play, we have to skate a lot. Like there's a ton of skating. Um, there's not as many stops and starts as you would see maybe on another team, but we're constantly skating, getting above pucks, getting back into our zone, and just playing with pace. And I think that's a credit to the strength and conditioning staff and just the way that training camp is run and all that. You got to be ready to rock.
Okay, so when we talk about getting ready for the game, because you talked about the intensity, you talked about the preseason, getting to that level, but take me into the room before the game. Like, who sets the tone from you guys to get it going? Like, we've seen the clips of Jordan Martinook, and it seems like he's front and center, but is there somebody else we're missing that the cameras haven't picked up, or is it Jordan?
Uh, Jarvis, pretty loud. I think everyone has their own style of leadership within the team. Jordo's a quiet guy, but he's very consistent in what he does. He's pretty unflappable. And then, Aho's not afraid to step up and talk when we need it. But before the game, there's not a ton. Like, we know how we have to play. Like, we don't have to get ourselves fired up, especially in the playoffs. The emotions built into the game. If anything, you have to calm yourself down and just, make sure that you're even keeled. But we're ready to go. We always have good starts to games because I think we're not trying too hard. We're in the right mindset and we're ready to be consistent whatever we're doing.
I want to talk a little bit about your play as well and your journey because you've seen everything in the NHL. You had the first overall pick, the high expectations, individual success, winning the Hart Trophy. Your first playoff experience was in 2017. But how would you describe yourself as a player now? Because it felt like, especially in that first round series, like it felt like you were in your element, Taylor.
Yeah, no, I feel pretty good. I feel like the way that we play and the players that I'm around right now, it's a really good fit, and I'm super happy to be here. I think on and off the ice, this is the most comfortable I've felt in a long time, and that's a great thing for an athlete. I think anyone, if they're feeling comfortable and confident, the sky's the limit. Fortunately, right now I'm very healthy, and I really love playing with those two guys. It's kind of as simple as that. And I think over the course of the season, Rod's gotten a lot more confident in us, and we're feeding off that. So it's a lot of things. But yeah, I've had an interesting journey. I'm grateful for every part of it, and I don't want it to go away anytime soon.
Well, it's wild because I was just looking at the years that you've played in the league, and you started when you're 18. Does it feel like you're a 16-year vet? Because I had to do a
No.
double take because man, you're like 34 years old. You're younger than I am, and you're a young guy, but it's that's a lot of experience in this league.
Yeah, no, I've seen it all. I've seen lots of different things. I've had a ton of different coaches, and I've seen a lot of systems. I've seen a lot. But no, at the start of this year, I was like 16 years, really. Like next year, when I'm playing next year, I'll have played in the NHL like half my life. So it's very strange, but like I said, I'm grateful for everything. And now that I have kids and stuff, I start to realize how cool my job is and how much I love doing what I do. And like I said, I don't want it to end anytime soon.
Well, you hear players as they develop and they work their way through the NHL, adding layers to their game. Like you were an offensive guy entering the league, obviously a dynamic player, but what did you feel like you had to add and learn as you're now, into your 30s and a player that, does play different from the Taylor Hall that we remember as an 18-year-old? Like what did you maybe consciously say, okay, I got to tweak my game a little bit here?
I think just defensively, it's not, that's the thing that all offensive guys have to learn. Like that side of the game, to be honest, doesn't come super easy to me. Um, but in Boston, I got a lot better defensively to the point where I was being trusted in situations that I hadn't been before. And as I've gotten more, playing time here in Carolina, it's been the same. So I think when you have offensive guys on your hockey team, you have to protect them, you have to insulate them, you have to bring out the best in them, and make the defensive side of the game as simple as possible. And because the game is so fast now, there's a lot of scoring. But if you can eliminate some turnovers, if you can get back on the defensive side of the puck quicker, you'll just have more time to play on offense. And that's something that I've started to realize over the last few years, and I feel like I've gotten better at.
And it's been great to watch you over the years as well, man. I know it's a long way to go still, but 16 years is a long time for hockey fans to be watching you as well. So it's been great to see your journey. Best of the luck moving forward as well. I know you've got some time to rest here. Appreciate you taking the time out for us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it. That was Taylor Hall of the Carolina Hurricanes, and you can catch him in the next round. Who's he going to play? We don't know. We'll find out. Comment, like, subscribe. We'll catch you next time.